So my elevator speech on mass incarceration is that if you really want to look at mass incarceration, you got to think about it before, during, and after someone's convicted. So the big problem before convictions is cash bond, which a lot of people know about now. I was hoping that Michigan would be the first state to fix that, but didn't get that done while I was in Lansing. But the problem with cash bond is that we have, as a society in our states, essentially confused liberty and money. And liberty and money should not be connected at all. In fact, if somebody's arraigned, charged, accused of a crime, the first thing that a judge asks them is, how much money do you have? Which has got nothing to do with what they've been charged with. And unfortunately, that means that in the United States of America, I believe it was Princeton did a study a number of years ago and noticed that about 54% of Americans don't have $500 and don't know where they'd find it from if they needed it, which means they're a $500 problem away from calamity. So now apply that in the justice system. If a judge who's making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year sets a $500 bond for someone being accused of something, they've set a hurdle that half the country can't clear. So if you can't clear that hurdle, think about what happens to you. You go to jail, you stay in jail. And probably, if you don't have $500, it's very likely you're in a fairly fragile work environment. A lot of people are in jobs that are called no-show, no-call, no-show. So you don't call and say that you're not coming in, and you don't show up, you lose your job. So if you got people who are working in the service industry, for example, they get a $500 bond, they can't make it, they can't show up for work, they lose their job. Now, we already knew they didn't have $500. Now they lost their job. What are the odds they keep their housing? And worse yet, what if they're a single mom and their kids are in daycare while all this happens? The government's going to come take their kids at the end of the day because someone's got to pick up their kids. So we've threatened people's jobs, housing, family status, and then we blame them for it. So the cash bond architecture is indefensible, and it causes tons and tons of damage. Probably about 10,000 people in the state of Michigan, while we're having this conversation, are lodged on a low dollar bond that they can't make. So it's a huge problem that we've connected lack of money with lack of liberty. So before, the biggest problem is cash bond. After, the biggest problem was expungement, cleaning up people's criminal records so that they're not a constant barrier to jobs and housing. So I'm very proud. When I was in Lansing, my big win was getting past what was sometimes referred to as clean slate legislation. And we became the first state in the country to automatically clean up selected felonies and a lot of misdemeanors. And since we've done that, 8 states have copied us, which is awesome. So we've helped more than 1 million people in Michigan, which is crazy. But the really awesome thing about it is if somebody's record is cleaned up, on average, their earnings go up 24% immediately, and they stay up for the rest of their earnings career. What that means is that bill package was the most important anti-poverty thing that's happened in Michigan in my lifetime. So very excited about that, very proud of that, proud of the fact that other states are following our example. So that's the after problem. The big during problem is if you think about mass incarceration, you can conceptualize it as people multiplied by time. How many people do you have? How long do you have them for? Michigan is the longest incarcerating state in the country. We keep people in Michigan prisons about 58 months on average. That's our average sentence length. Everywhere else in the country, it's about 30 months. So my joke sometimes is, we don't have to become Norway. If we just became Ohio, we would cut the size of MDOC in half. And when you think about the implications of it, long sentences destroy families. They have huge amounts of collateral damage outside of the damage it does to the individual. So again, the simple thought experiment. If you sent me to the Upper Peninsula and incarcerated me for a couple years, my wife would probably visit me. She'd probably bring the kids. It'd be a nuisance, but she probably would. If you send me to the Upper Peninsula for 10 years, my wife's probably moving on, and my kids probably aren't going to be able to pick me out of a lineup by the time I get out. So you've broken my family past the point of reconstruction. So there are huge, it's roughly true that children of people who get a prison sentence are 10 times as likely to go to prison, sometimes called intergenerational incarceration. Well, if we break up families like that's what our system is designed to do, how can we be all that surprised if kids who lose a major support system in their life, in other words, a parent, how can we be all that surprised if they don't have great outcomes? The Council of State Government a number of years ago did a study that showed that the day someone gets incarcerated, over 50% of those people are primary caregivers for a child, and over 50% of those children are under the age of 9. So our incarceration system has huge implications, social implications, outside of the person that we're trying to punish. We punish all of us by punishing those people the way that we do.